give it 2 more minutes and then get started. In the meantime, please tell me a little bit about you. Get to know each other. Um, what is it about today's session that you'd like to know? What questions do you have for me? You can keep putting in the chat, and as and when we go through the various content areas, we'll have a bit more of a conversation on these points as well. Another 2 minutes, and now I'll start. Hi, Mukesh. Welcome. Great to have you. Thank you for logging in. Please do share, colleagues. What do you do? Where do you work? What are you hoping to gain out of today? I'm joined also by Nandini, who is from Kaplan. Nandini, do you want to say hi and hello while we wait for others?
Hi all, Nandini here. I am from Kaplan, the program advisors team. So in case of anything related to the program, I'll be more than happy to assist once Payal is done with her webinar. Thank you so much,
Thank you,
Payal.
That's all right. Thank you, Nandini. Brilliant. We also have Mohammed is taking notes. Excellent. You can watch a transcript of the notes there. Mohammed says to network with local professionals to explore new opportunities. Brilliant. I hope you do get a chance to have a chat with your colleagues about this. But interestingly, if you are a job seeker, I hope this will also give you a chance to start thinking about what are organizations looking for, especially in this given competitive marketplace, whether you are an applicant or whether you're on the other side recruiting, how can you ensure you do things in a way that are effective and that actually work? So I am going to make a start. I did promise we'll start in 2 minutes time, so it's time to get started. I'll introduce myself first, and then we'll have a chat a little bit more about what's going to be taking place today. So my name is Payal, Payal Gaglani Bhatt, and I am, I've got various roles, but for Kaplan, I am a CIPD trainer. I work on the CIPD qualifications with the team to deliver level 3 and level 5 qualifications. What does that mean? That means if you're an HR professional looking to upskill yourself and you're thinking about how do I get accredited and build my credibility in the profession, and the CIPD qualification is one of those things. Outside of this, I have my own company. I am an HR and L&D consultant, and I run a little company in Dubai called The Little Gurus, which has loads of clients across UK, all of GCC, and here within UAE. And the kind of work that we do often is around all sorts of people issues, talent acquisition, learning and development, change and organizational transformation, data analytics, strategic workforce planning, a whole range of ideas and skills. But today's day is not about that. Today's day is about three things. So I'm going to be sharing with you a couple of different things over the next 1 hour. We'll have a very quick and short introduction to the labor market and the GCC. But this is a little bit from a technical point of view so that you understand the big picture, and then you can begin to work out what it means for you and the company that you are working in or the company that you are looking to apply to. Then we're also going to be looking at how do you compete. So as an organization, it's incredibly challenging sometimes to stand out, to attract the best talent and to retain them. And there is a couple of different ways in which organizations do this. We are going to be looking at one specific model called the Higgs model. And then towards the end of today's webinar, I will be sharing some best practices, some examples of what other organizations are doing. Feel free to ask questions and put it in the chat at any point in time, but there will also be opportunity for Q&A right at the end. So I'm just looking through quickly in the chat to see, I had asked everyone, what are you hoping to get out of today? And people were introducing themselves in the chat, but also saying what is it that they're expecting to get. So I had the original one. The first answer came in from Muhammad, who said he was looking to network with other professionals in the same field. Then we've got Pinny, who says, I'm looking to strengthen my talent acquisition skills and to get some ideas for some more strategies. Brilliant place to be, Pinny. That's exactly what we're going to be looking for. But feel free to share your ideas because I'm sure you have lots of experience too. Shweta says, my agenda out of this session will be I recently moved to Abu Dhabi and want to start a career here in HR and for networking. Brilliant. Welcome, Shweta. I hope you begin to get some insight into what working in the UAE is like, what is shaping the UAE agenda right now. Christina, Fatima, Karen, everyone else who's joined in the chat just now, welcome. And if you too want to share and add within the program or within the chat, Why are you here? What are you hoping to get out of today? I can address that as well. Same for you, Vilu. Welcome to the webinar today. I'm joined by Nandini, who will also answer any of your questions about upskilling towards the end of the session if you want. All right, let's get started. So today's things, we're going to be talking about three main areas. I'm going to start with what does the labor market in the GCC look like right now. Now, before I get into that, there are a couple of questions, poll questions that I'm going to ask you, and see what you think about these. Each one of you may have a different response, and that's absolutely fine. My first question is around, think about your organization. Where are you currently getting your talent from? So what is your organization's approach to this? Now, there could be two. One is an internal one where you look at your staff, and the other one is an external one where you look at the external labor pool. And sometimes you do both. You look internal and external, or just get them from the competitors. So I've got a couple of responses coming through. Please choose. The poll is going to be open for about 45 seconds. 25 seconds have gone. So we'll see how the responses show up. There you go. As you can see, people are responding and we're quickly picking up. I've got 10 out of 12 respondents who have participated. Others, please do share your thoughts as well. Please add your answers. Okay, I'm going to stop the poll in 30 seconds, not even 30 seconds, 3 seconds or 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Stop. So looking at the results, you can see for yourself, I've just shared the results. It's quite interesting, isn't it? Half the people, or 1/3 of the people, have got theirs from internal. So you tend to recruit from the people you already have in the organization. Some have looked at external. So this is where you're looking at the overall wide general labor market. This tends to be quite a norm as well. And then some others, 1/3 have said they get it from their competitors. And that's quite common as well. One of the best places to recruit sometimes tends to be from those who are in a very similar organization to yours. So that was my first question. Brilliant. The second question, I'm going to ask you to respond. So this is not a multiple choice question, but one where I want to get your ideas. So this question is an open-ended question. And here, I want you to tell me one word that you would use to describe the current labor market in UAE. So what one word would you use to describe UAE's current labor market from your perspective? What does it look like to you? And again, I'll give you 30 seconds to choose. This one requires you to type. So please type in your answer. And once you hit on submit, I'll share what are the responses that I'm getting. So I've got a few questions coming through. Those of you that have just joined in, welcome. Kola, welcome to you. Who else has just joined in? I think that's it. Kola and Vilu, you are the only two who have joined in. Please welcome to the program and participate in this poll. My question is, what one word would you use to describe the labor market of UAE? And I've got half of you that's responded. Others, please enter your ideas as well. I'll give you 10 seconds more to do this. Type quick. So we've got 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So Mukesh has gone on and added a little bit more of a detail within the chat. So he says demand and supply ratio is low. There are more applicants and less jobs. Thank you so much. So I'm going to share the results of what your colleagues have written. And as you can see, there's a whole range of responses over there. There's a whole range of ideas in terms of what people think, what words they've used to describe the labor market. I hope you've had a chance to read it. Okay, I'll stop sharing the results. Brilliant. Now, all of these are ways in which we begin to understand the labor market. So usually thinking about it, when you think about labor market, are you looking at it internally? Is this your own stuff that you're looking to develop, grow, progress them on? Are you looking externally? So in general, what's happening in the world out there? Who else is participating? Or are you looking at it from competitors? These three tend to be the most common areas. And as we saw, 1/3 everywhere. The other thing that's useful to do is understand if you start mapping your labor market, what's happening. And there are two ways of looking at this. So on the vertical axis, we've got how many vacancies are there in the market, and you've got low towards the bottom and high towards the top. And this is purely looking at it from the number of vacancies available in the market. So you can see there's low here and high on the top. Similarly, what is the participation level like? And participation level, I mean, how many people are actively involved in looking for a job? How many people actually are seeking employment? How many people want to work? What is the percentage of the workforce that's eligible to work? And by that, I mean, young people who are below the age of 16 may not be able to work in UAE. Those who are closer to retirement age may not be able to work in the UAE. So what does the workforce participation look like? And again, on left and right, you've got low versus high, as you can see over here. So you've got low on the left-hand side, high on the left-hand side, right-hand side. Now, based on this, the labor market itself can be quite tricky. Sometimes you have a scenario where it is here, number one, low number of vacancies, few vacancies in the market, and actually few people looking to get a job, few people actually participating. And so here, during COVID, we found that a lot of organizations didn't have many vacancies going on. And there were not that many people looking to get a job as well because of all the restrictions, because of all sorts of things that were taking place. So that's number one, where you have low number of vacancies and low level of participation. What Mukesh was describing in the chat is the second scenario. So number two over here is where you have low number of vacancies, but there's a high participation rate. So the number of people wanting a job is quite high, whereas the number of vacancies that's there in the industry right now is low. And so number two is low vacancies, high participation rate. Sometimes it's the other way around. Sometimes you have a lot of people not applying for jobs. So the unemployment rate is really, really low. So very low participation, but the number of vacancies are a lot. And that can have an impact on the way we do resourcing, on the way we do talent acquisition. And finally, the last part is what we call high number of vacancies and high levels of participation. In this case, we have loads of people who are looking for jobs, loads of jobs that are available, so on and so forth. So Khola's question in the chat is, why does that happen? Why do we have low vacancy and high participation unemployment if the unemployment rate is high? This is where you need to understand, is it a loose market or a tight market? So I'm going to explain this in a bit, and Khola, hopefully that will give you an answer to why it is. It's worth thinking about where would you plot UAE. So is UAE a situation where you have low number of vacancies and high participation, or is it high number of vacancies with low participation, or is it both of them are high? And I'll give you a chance to think about it, because industry to industry, role to role, that might be different. Then we've got tight labor market versus loose labor. What is a tight labor market? Tight labor market is where it is very, very competitive, very, very tight, and a shortage of talent in the marketplace. So you have not that many people who are unemployed, so the low unemployment rate, a huge number of vacancies are not filled. Why? Because there isn't talent to fill that. And so in a scenario like that, what happens is it's the applicants who have a high bargaining power. So if I was the one looking for a job in a tight labor market, I would actually have a lot of power if I was good at my job to negotiate a better salary, to negotiate higher levels of compensation, because there are very few of me who are talented individuals in the marketplace. So tight labor market is something that's really, really good from an applicant perspective, not so great from an organization's perspective, because they're competing. They're competing in a very, very tight space. Few talent with high levels of caliber who are looking for a large number of vacancies. And so they can be very, very selective. So you have to really stand out as an organization in order to attract and a tight labor market. The opposite of that is what you call a loose labor market. In a loose labor market, you have lots and lots of people there available, but the number of vacancies are very few. So you have a high unemployment rate because people are not able to find vacancies within the organization, so vacancies within the labor market. And in this case, this is something that's positive for the employer because they are the ones who have a bigger bargaining power. Why? If I don't get A, I can go to B. If I don't get B, I can go to C. If I don't get C, I can go to D. So I have many more applicants, much more of a wider choice as an organization to pick from a loose labor market. But when it's tight, when it's very, very competitive, every company is fighting for those talented individuals. So this is what makes it different. And it's worth thinking about currently, if you assess the UAE, what are you likely to see? Are you likely to see a tight labor market where the number of vacancies are more, but the number of people who are available are less? Or are you likely to see a loose market where the number of people looking for a job are higher, but the number of vacancies are not so many? So I'm going to do another poll, very quick poll to see what you think. What's your response here? Do we have a tight labor market in the UAE, or do we have a not so tight labor market in the UAE? So I've started my poll. Enter your answers. Once again, I'll give you about 35 seconds to do this. Do we have a tight market? Do we have a loose market? Now, this time, the answers are coming in much quicker. Some say it's tight. A huge number of people are saying it's loose. And some are saying, well, it's not that cut and dry. For some roles, for some industries, it's loose. For some industries and some roles, it's tight. So 10 seconds more for very quickly for you to choose. I've got about 80% of the people have responded to the poll. Rest of you, please go ahead and do it now. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, I'm going to end the poll and let's see what the results show. So the result categorically are saying it's a loose labor market, but sometimes dependent on industry of the role. And you would be absolutely right to say that. In UAE, it seems like there are fewer positions, but the number of people looking for roles is much higher, especially at the lower levels of the organizations. So in frontline roles, in customer service roles, in blue collar, there does seem to be that there are fewer vacancies and number of people available. However, as you get into specialist categories, as you get into roles which are slightly more senior, slightly more specific, slightly more targeted to certain professions or certain specialisms, then it becomes a tight labor market because you've got very few individuals with certain skill sets. And if you look at nationalization, so Emiratization, then within that, there's a completely different sphere because we have a very, very small percentage of people available from the Emirati talented population who are there in the labor market for those roles. So depending on where it is, you might find a slightly different response to this. And again, there's never one blanket answer for the whole organization. So a couple of things to look at. What are the number of vacancies? What is the availability of roles? What type of a labor market is it, loose or tight? And then it's worth thinking about what are the drivers of the UAE labor market. So what are the big themes? What are the big changes we are seeing in the labor market? And these four things kind of stand out. First is there is an AI revolution taking place. More and more organizations are thinking about how artificial intelligence can be used, can be harnessed, can be adopted in their way of working to make things simpler, faster, quicker, easier, more accurate, and where people might be replaced by machines. We've already started seeing some of that in, for example, driverless taxis. If all the taxis within the UAE start using AI and become driverless taxis, what does this mean for a labor force that has a lot of taxi drivers? Similarly, we've seen this even in retail. So if you go to a lot of supermarkets, a lot of pharmacies, a lot of grocery shops, you have the self-checkout option. This is where a machine is able to do, and people are able to do it themselves. And so you need fewer checkout assistants. All of these are shaping the way we do things, and it's only going to increase. The AI revolution is not changing, is not going back or dying down. It's absolutely going to be a key priority. So that's the first kind of driver. Second, and a big driver, is nationalization. Government at the moment has prioritized and set really ambitious targets for organizations, larger organizations, to have a wider population of nationals, and that's the right thing to do from a country's perspective. Having said that, though, it does pose a challenge. So if I was a recruiter, if I'm trying to do talent acquisition, and every organization is looking for talented UAE nationals, how am I going to stand out? And not only that, if I'm able to attract these UAE nationals into my company, what's the guarantee that they are going to stay? And if they stay, are we creating a culture where they feel like they're valued and respected and that their ideas are truly appreciated? Or is there a lot of bias around who comes into the workforce? So there's a lot of conversations going on from a talent acquisition perspective in terms of nationalization. Then, interestingly, we have what's called the productivity paradox. So, technically, after COVID, people should be very, very productive. However, there is so much resistance, there is so much stress, there is so people are spending more and more time at work, but are they productive in that time? Probably not. So productivity levels have actually dropped, especially after COVID, when people have been asked to go back into work, or where their teams are smaller and being asked to do more. People are spending a lot longer at work. It's very common for people to have long work hours. It's very common for employers to expect employees to be sitting on their table 7 to 7 and longer. It's very common for people to be on their mobile phones checking emails even when they've gone home. It's very common to see people working on evenings and weekends. Are they productive though? And the research that has been done says although people are spending longer time in the workplace, actually, they are not that productive. Partly because it's leading to burnout, partly because they're stressed, and partly because although people are spending more time at work, it's not necessarily on the right things. A lot of doom scrolling takes place, a lot of meetings take place which don't really add value, a lot of conversations take place that are actually just social chats rather than being something related to productivity. So there's a paradox there. And that has an impact on what happens to the labor market. And the last one is because it's such a loose labor market, it is sometimes a challenge to find the workforce and the people who are there within the workforce. And so a lot of organizations are getting very, very creative. They are looking for where might you find other sources of employment? Where might you get the hidden workforce from? And that's another trend that's setting people apart. So if it's a labor market where you have to compete and you really have to stand out, what can an organization really do? What can talent acquisition specialists really, really do? Couple of things. First is they can have strong employee value proposition. Can anyone in the chat write for me, what do you think employee value proposition means? How would you describe this? What is employee value proposition in your understanding? How would you describe this? Go ahead, put your answers in the chat. I'll give you a minute to type this out. In fact, 20 seconds should be enough. Go on. Tell me, what do you mean by employee value proposition? Let's see if you have anybody who already knows this and how organizations can compete. So Mukesh has suggested how engaged employees are. That's a part of it. But why are they engaged? What causes that engagement? And that's where Christina's answer is absolutely spot on. It's the compensation that you offer. It's the benefits that you're adding in. It's the company's culture that you are creating. It's that whole offering to the candidates, like Vinny has put it, and including, like Zia says, the rewards. So Kola has given me a beautiful definition saying a statement of the values, the rewards, the recognition, the support, the company culture that an employer gives to the employees, enabling them to do their best work and achieve their highest potential. Within that falls career development. Within that falls brilliant working practices, a strong culture where people feel that they are valued. This is what employee value proposition is. So if I say, think about working at Emirates, what would be the proposition if you're an Emirates employee? Instantly, this comes into your mind. If I say, imagine working at Google, what do you think being an employee at Google might be like? Instantly, you get these ideas. Imagine working at Ministry of Education. What would that be like? And imagine you suddenly get these ideas, right? These ideas which are coming to your mind. You don't work in these places, well, maybe you do, I don't know. But most people don't work in these places. And if they don't work in these places, yet they have an idea, yet they have an assumption, yet they have some sort of an expectation of what it is to work for these organizations. This is because of their value proposition. This is what they get known in the market for. So if you are trying to recruit people in an environment which is very, very competitive, What others say about you becomes very, very crucial. What your employees say about you becomes very, very crucial. And so employee value proposition is, what are you offering that is unique as a company to anybody else offering? And so if you are a job seeker, you are going to look at, well, which company should I apply for? What do they offer people? What do they offer people? Which is a better place to work? All of us are thinking that. And this is where employer branding comes in. What do you stand for as an employer? Are you known as the market leader when it comes to pay? Are you known as the most creative and innovative place to work? Are you known as the fun employer? Are you known as a very orthodox or old school employer? What are you known as? What's your employer branding? Is it intentional? Is it what you were aiming for? Or has this just come about because this is what people say about you? So those are the two ways in which organizations compete. But then there's also this idea of being an employer of choice. So what does it mean to be an employer of choice? Where does this term come from? And this is what Higgs model tells you. So Higgs model basically says that there are different types of organizations, and each organization kind of does things differently in two ways. They do things differently when it comes to the kind of rewards they offer, and they do things differently in terms of the culture that they have. So some organizations have a poor culture, which are towards the left. Some organizations have a great culture, which are towards the right. Similarly, when you think about the rewards, some organizations have poor rewards, which are towards the bottom. And then other organizations have excellent rewards, which are towards the top. So based on what kind of rewards you're offering and based on what kind of culture you have in the workplace, we have four different types of organizations. Number one, we have what are called employer of churn. These sort of employers have poor rewards, you don't get paid very well, and it's a terrible place to work. There is toxicity, people don't enjoy it, nobody likes the culture over there, and you're doing it just because there is no other job where you haven't found another one. So employer of churn have a lot of turnover. People come, people go, people come, people go, lots and lots of turnover, lots and lots of people turning over, changing jobs very, very quickly, staying for a short period of time. Some other organizations, they can't afford a lot of yeah, they can't afford a lot in terms of money, but it's a great place to work. So employers of value are those employers who, they're not the best players in the market, but it's an excellent place to work. People support each other, they have flexible working, they look after the well-being of their employees. The workplace is everybody's smiling, it's a happy place. People are doing jobs that they really feel passionate about. And overall, the culture is excellent, but not the best players in the market. And those are what are called as employers of values. Other employers are what we call employers of cash. These employers pay excellent. They are very, very good, great rewards, great benefits on the top end of things, but it's not a great place to work. So you get high pay, but that comes at a cost, which is a poor company culture. There could be lots of competition. There could be lots of toxicity. There could be poor relations or working conditions. There could be very hard expectations and very high targets. So it feels very pressured. Culture is not great. Money is excellent. And ideally, where you want to be is the sweet spot of having best rewards and best culture. This is where the words employer of choice comes in. So employer of choice are organizations who have a great culture in terms of what people work in, where they are, how they are treated in the workplace, how they deal with things, and they also pay well in line with the market. So four different types of employers. What I want to know is, first, if you have any questions, feel free to put it in the chat. Anything you want to know about the Higgs model, please feel free to type in the chat. But I'm also going to ask you, thinking about the place that you are working at or the last place that you worked at, what kind of an employer are you working for? Is your organization positioned as employer of churn, where terrible rewards, terrible culture, employer of cash, brilliant pay, but terrible place to work, or employer of values, where the pay is not that great, but it's a brilliant place to work, or you have an employer of choice, the ideal sweet spot between the two. So take a few moments and put in your answers in the chat. I've got a couple of different responses coming through. Make a choice. Where do you work? I'll give you 15 seconds more to choose your answer. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. Give your answers in quickly, colleagues, if you haven't. 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. Thank you. Thank you for sharing your answers. So it looks like a lot of you are working at Employer of Values. It's quite a good place to work. However, it's not that great when it comes to pay. Sadly, about 30% of you are also working at Employer of Change. Terrible working conditions and terrible culture. None of you are working for an employer of choice. So it's worth thinking about if you want to compete in a tight labor market, if you want to compete and stand out and attract the best talent, how can you become the employer of choice? And sometimes our hands are tied, the budgets are not going to go up. And so you might not be able to pay the best salaries, but your other sorts of compensation can actually compensate for people's time and really appreciate what they bring in. You can use what's called a total rewards approach. So there we go. It's useful to see where everyone is along these lines. So we've looked at a couple of different things. We've looked at what does a UAE labor market look like for the moment. We've looked at what are the different types of organizations that we work at. The last thing to explore is what are the new trends in talent acquisition? Where else are employers looking for alternative pools of talent? So if you've looked at the external labor market, not found what you want, you've looked at the internal labor market and not found what you want, where else can you go? What else can you do? And I've got over here a couple of different things which organizations are looking to find their hidden talents from. So first one is looking at the competitors, and we had some of you already doing this, isn't it? You're looking at your competitors, but some people and a lot of banks and financial institutions are doing this actually. They are recruiting people who have previously been their customers, who have been their clients, or who have gone there as consultants, and that makes up a new sort of a talent pool. Some organizations are taking a much more structured approach, and they feel like, let's build our own people. And so they offer lots of graduate trainee schemes, internships, and take people on at a really, really low level, and then upskill them. Once you get them into the door as interns or as trainees, you begin to train them up, you begin to see how they are performing, you begin to shape and give them feedback and enhance their performance. And once they're ready, offer them a full-time position, if at all that's possible. Some organizations have said, let's look at those that we made redundant in the past, people that we let go of, or those colleagues who have retired, if they're willing to work again, if it was before the retirement age, and if the government allows and the laws allow, then could we look at those people who have retired? Could we look at those people that we made redundant? And that ends up being a pool. Sometimes candidates will be looked at in terms of those people who have applied for a job. So of course, the first choice candidates get the job. But the second choice, those that made it to the interview but were not selected, they have shown an interest. They were good enough to be shortlisted one time. So can your second choice employees or candidates, or those that you had rejected originally, could they form your talent pool? And a lot of organizations keep these details on their CVs. Keep the details of the CVs on their records, and that really helps them to shape and create a new talent pool. And the last one is what are called boomerang employees. Does anyone know what boomerang employees are? What do you think boomerang employees mean? Try and put it in the chat if you know what it means. Do you know boomerang, the kids game where you throw and it turns around and it comes back to you? That's what boomerang is as a toy. It kind of looks like a disc. It looks like that shaped. You throw it and then it turns around and it comes back to you. So exactly. Like Christina says, like a boomerang, they come back. That is precisely the point. Rehiring. So Mukesh is guessing it's rehiring. Yeah, it's people that have left the organization but are choosing to return back. So Fatima's added on as well. People who leave the company but then return to that company. Absolutely. So any returning employee, any employee who left for some reason, they can become a really good talent pool for an organization. And those are called the boomerang employees. So some secret, some hidden talent pools over there, and a lot of organizations are looking at this. Interestingly, what a lot of other organizations are looking at is also creating competency frameworks. So they're like, we don't have a job description, we don't have a specific job, but what we are looking for is people with certain skill set, just the bare minimum that's needed. Everything else we'll train you on. So if you have the bare basics, everything else, maybe it's not the same industry experience, maybe it's not a certain number of years, let's bring it down. Let's look at the bare minimum that we want, genuinely need for the job. And then outside of this, away from this, we can train people up. So let's get people in as a basic and then upskill them in the organization, in the organization's way of working. So that's where the alternative talent pools are. The hidden sources of talent might be if you're doing talent acquisition, where else you could look. But equally, colleagues, you are all experienced. You've been doing this. And if you are looking at talent acquisition, what other sources have you used? What else has worked for you? I'd love to know about that in the chat. So feel free to put that in the chat. And while you're putting that, if you have any questions, if you have any comments, if there's something else you want to know, please put that in the chat too. So we had 3 outcomes to look at today. We looked at starting with what does the GCC labor market looking like. Penny's added on, I use LinkedIn a lot. I use LinkedIn a lot and also referrals. And both are really, really good. So LinkedIn or any social media site will get you a large number of applicants very quickly in a very short period of time. The danger with LinkedIn, not everybody is who they say they are. And so you may take a lot of time in shortlisting to find the most ideal and suitable candidates. But it's a great place to start. Referrals is another one. So referrals is where you're asking your current employees to recommend or suggest who else do they know who might be able to do this job. And that is also a great technique because generally when people recommend somebody, they know a little bit about the job, they know a little bit about the person, and they see where's the match. So that works. But equally, sometimes referral tends to get very similar types of people. So if I was going to invite somebody to join my company, they're most likely going to be friends or family of mine. And if they're friends or family of mine, they're going to be quite similar to me. And so you don't get that level of diversity or various perspectives coming through, which can sometimes be not appropriate for the organization. Lovely. So a couple of different ways of sourcing talent pools. And then, of course, you've got all your Naukri.com and Monster and all those sorts of things which you could use as well. Zia's added another one in the chat. She says, previous office colleagues. That's an interesting one. Yeah. So referring people that you used to work with, that's a great one, actually. That's a very interesting one, Zia. A very fascinating technique. How does it work for you? Have you managed to get and source loads of people? It is kind of like poaching. You're still taking from somewhere else, not competitors, but previous people that you worked with. And a lot of senior leaders will do that. If they have trusted colleagues in one company, when they move, their team moves with them. So that tends to be a good talent source as well. Lovely. But that's personal networks, often personal networks. So there we go. This is what I wanted to cover. We are coming up to about 10 past 7. The idea was to give you a very quick whistle-stop tour in terms of what's happening in the GCC labor market, what else is going on in the region, how are companies having to combat this. What does it mean to be an employer of choice? And the rest of it is open floor for you to ask me questions. Now, Shweta's asked one. Why it's difficult to get in initially, in spite having a great experience in India with core HR, and why do UAE need experience in UAE? So Shweta, it's a very interesting question. There are 2 answers to this, and this is what I'm saying. In some roles, companies have said, you know what, it doesn't matter where your experience is, whether you've done it in UAE or whether it was in India or in another country. If you have the right skills and if you have the right competencies, then we are happy to take you on. But other organizations will ask for very specific thing. We want UAE experience, we want it in a specific industry, we want it to be a certain number of years, and they are not very open to the idea. These are the organizations that tend to struggle in the long run because they don't get everybody of their requirements. So technically, it should be about merit. Doesn't matter where you got your experience. This is the ideal answer, right? Ideally, it should be about merit. Where organizations put these requirements in is sometimes when they want to hit the ground running. They want somebody to come in and straight away become effective. If they haven't got the time to train somebody up, or if they haven't got the options or the opportunities to develop people into those roles, and they need somebody instantly to be effective, they may ask for sorts of things like that. Um, because that way, if somebody has got experience of working in the UAE, they do know the labor laws. They do know what it means with various nuances that come with working within the UAE. So it makes it easier for them to do that cultural integration and get people running quickly. That's why, Shweta, sometimes they ask for it. For labor law, yeah, but technically you don't need, you absolutely don't need. And I wish so many people change this. So one of the things I try to do personally is every time we are teaching the CIPD program, every time I'm training the new generation of HR employees, I really ask them to think through, why are you asking? Why does some jobs say only a man apply when there are clear regulations that say you cannot discriminate based on gender? Why are you asking for 5 years of experience when you know it's a graduate job? A graduate job, people will be graduates. So what's your thinking behind this? Why do you feel the necessity to make it, even if it's like a waiter's job, why are you asking for 2 years of experience? So a part of the way I can influence them is to get them to think critically, but not all organizations do so. So as much I feel like, come on, if you're going to be working in HR, sharpen your brain. Think about what you're asking, why you're asking. Just because somebody does not have X or Y, does it mean that they can't do a job? And are you asking for realistic things that are going to be used in the job? Another one that really gets me is when people put, oh, we're looking for somebody who's friendly and somebody who's flexible and somebody who's got a positive attitude. How are you going to measure that on a CV? A CV is black and white list of papers. How will I know whether person A or person B is more friendly from a CV? And yet you're using your CV for shortlisting. How am I going to know from an application form if person A or person B is more flexible? So you've got to make the criteria as something that's sensible, something that's measurable, something that without bias you can judge on. Otherwise, these bad habits and poor practices are going to continue. And that's a part of the kind of thinking that you would do on the CIPD program if you were studying it. Because we challenge your thinking, we challenge your ways of working, and you may have brilliant experience, does not mean you're doing the best things in the workplace. Sometimes we do things and we're like, oh, I really want to change this, but I don't know how to, because there is no confidence, there's no credibility. You feel like, well, I'm in my job, I can't really do much, people will not listen to me. But the job of somebody working in HR in today's day and age is to influence, is to impact, is to negotiate, is to become a true business partner who understands organizations, but who also understands people. And that's where hopefully the newer generation of people working in HR are going to be smarter, with a higher level of business acumen, with real sharp data analytics skills, a good understanding of the business and what's happening in the world around them. At the same time, sensible and sensitive to the unique requirements of people that come from wider backgrounds. So, Ashwath, I wish I had a simple answer for you, but unfortunately, there isn't. On that note, colleagues, Kala is looking for a job. So, if anybody's a recruiter and looking for a junior role HR, she's reaching out. Well done, Kala. You came here for networking. You are doing your networking. Awesome. Um, and Shweta's added on to say, yeah, but yeah, I agree with you. I mean, some of the things have to be based on competency. Why don't they do that? Carter says, how do you stay updated on the HR relevant, on the latest HR trends and innovations relevant to the UAE? Carter, there are a couple of different ways. So the first one is sign up to industry newsletters. And I don't mean just any random things that are put together by recruitment agencies. I mean genuine, proper ones. So for example, CIPD, sign up to CIPD, they provide some really good newsletters. SHRM, they provide some strong newsletters. AIHR. So keep People Management Magazine, sign up to things like that, which give you the real-time information of what's happening in there. Specifically to the UAE, you have to keep your eyes and ears open. And the best way to do this is attend events where other people who are working in the UAE are going to be attending. It takes time and effort to go in there and listen and learn, kind of like what you've done today, Khaja. You came today to this particular webinar. You're taking that personal time out to develop yourself. This is the best way to keep on top of what are the new trends. The more you hear from experts, the more you hear from people working in the industry, the more you share ideas and experiences with other HR professionals, the better it's going to be. This is how you keep on top of things. There's so much going on in the world outside. It's very easy to get replaced. So worth looking at it. Kola, you asked, do I have a CIPD course in level 5? So yes, Kaplan does offer a CIPD course in level 5. It's starting on the 9th of September. If you are interested, Nandini is here on the call. Nandini, can you please make note of Kola's request, and please do get her in touch, get in touch with her to answer all your queries. But equally, Kola, if you have other questions, please put them in. Khaja's offered, I'm hiring in HR. So can ping us over LinkedIn in Khaja Muhammad, and she's given her name. Kola, connect with Khaja. There you go. Brilliant. Muhammad says, I have international experience in HR policies and procedures within the UAE. If interested, please reach out to me as well. And Muhammad has shared his details as well, so please reach out to him. Mukesh says, please do brief on the CIPD new sign up for working professionals. I did discuss this with Nandini on this. Okay, absolutely. Mukesh, if you have specific questions, do let me know. I think what I'm going to do is take about 5 minutes just to explain what it is. So for those of you that are not aware, CIPD is a UK chartered body for professional development within the field of HR, and they run different qualifications. So they run a foundations course, which is level 3, something that Kaplan offers as well. The foundations course is aimed at those people who have no background in HR. You know, they're just, they could be graduates, or they could be people who have done different things in life and are looking for a career change. Level 5 is for those who are working in HR. And it's a slightly more intense program because it expects you to be able to apply theory into practice. So in terms of the program itself, it's got 7 different units, and you complete those 7 units over a period of 7 to 9 months. Each of the sessions can, there we go. Mukesh has added on over here. It has 3 sections, the core units, the specialist, and the optional. So do we have to opt for all? So here it is. The core units are compulsory. These are essential skills which every people professional needs to know. And it includes things like business acumen, which no matter what job you do in HR, whether you're working in talent acquisition or L&D or rewards or employee relations, whatever you do, you will still need to know business acumen. You will still need to know how to use analytics. You will still need to know how to be ethical and follow through things. So core units are essential. There are 3 of them, and everybody does it. Then we have 3 specialist units. Now, the 3 specialist units give you a choice. Either you take the L&D branch, or you take the HR branch. If you take the HR branch, you have to do HR1, HR2, HR3, which is compulsory. If you do L&D, then you do L&D1, L&D2, L&D3, which is compulsory. But you get a choice, either to specialize in HR or specialize in L&D. Those are compulsory as well. And then from the optional unit, there's a whole series of them. You've got to choose only one. And if you study at Kaplan, that optional unit is going to be management and leadership. So it's about developing your management styles, developing your leadership styles, and preparing you for that next level of development. So that's how a program is. The 7 units are 3 core units, 3 specialist units, and 1 optional units. Classes are every month. So you have a certain number of classes, then you work on assignments. There are no exams for the qualification. There are no surprises. It is entirely assignment based. Assignments are about 3,000 to 4,000 words, and you get about a month to work on them. So you attend classes similar to this, online classes, face-to-face classes, and then we discuss all the topics, we discuss all the ideas, and we also discuss how to pass the assignment. We cover and discuss every single question, what the approach is, and once that's done, you then go on to your self-study work where you do more research, you write down your answers and submit it for checking. It gets marked, you complete that unit, you move on to the next one, and you do that for 7 times. So roughly the program takes between 7 and 9 months to complete. So if you're starting in September, by about next July, you will have completed the program. If you have other questions about the program, anything else you want to know, Mukesh, feel free to put your questions, since it's quite likely others are thinking about the same thing too. Also, Nandini has put in her details, her phone number, as well as her email in the chat. So please make a note of it. If you want further details, you can always ask her. Kala has got one more question. She says, how to stay updated with UAE labor law every time it keeps changing, and how can we be staying on top of all of them also if you want to specialize? So you are right, UAE labor law does change, But the previous labor law, it was set in 79. It only got changed in 2001. Then it was updated again in 2003, and it was updated again in 2004. So as UAE is becoming more competitive, the labor law updates are changing. There are loads of things you can do to stay on top of this, I guess, as well. Again, loads of organizations put forward labor law courses, but mostly they tend to be paid. So if you're looking for something free, it's worth signing up to the More website, and they do both Arabic as well as English updates for people. They also occasionally run sessions free of charge for general public to become used to the labor law. A lot of lawyers actually have some really brilliant blogs online on the UAE labor law changes every time it starts. So it's worth looking at that as well. Mukesh, your question is any demonstration to start with. Nandini, do you want to come in and answer that one? You might be better placed than me.
Hi, thank you. So, Mukesh, as discussed, what we can do is that maybe we can have you take one demo class, and then you can proceed forward with the rest of the classes once you decide whether you want to proceed forward or not. So maybe you can, attend a demo class on the 9th, and you can also come before the session so that you can connect with Payal on a personal basis and get your doubts clarified so that she can also have it answered in a much better fashion as per your requirements. Hope
Yeah.
that works, Payal.
Yeah. It is a big commitment, Mukesh. So I would say, have a go. The fact that you're willing to try it and experiment and learn something is brilliant, but you need to make a choice that's right for you. So always think about what works for you. What is your style? Why are you doing this? What is going to keep you going? What are your motivations? What are you hoping to achieve at the end? Because the answers to this question will be what determines how much effort you put into your studies. And it is a very, it's one of those qualifications which you're kind of going to be managing on top of your job, on top of your personal life, on top of your private commitments. And at the same time, you're looking to accredit and upskill yourself. So it does take a lot of effort. So any professional qualification, you've got to make the choice of getting the right one for you. And again, one of the things I can say is, and I'm, by the way, not employed by Kaplan, so I don't have any reason to say this, but one of the things I have seen is I work with a lot of centers that provide CIPD, but the student support that you get with Kaplan is excellent. And that makes life so much easier for somebody who's a working professional because there is flexibility there is understanding there. There is also an appreciation for the kind of unique context you bring. So if you are choosing a CIPD center, you want to think about what are the number of contact hours, how good are the lecturers, what is going to be the student support like. These are the questions that you really need to ask, and when you find the answers to this, then make a choice. um, so it's a big deal. Colleagues, any other questions, please feel free to put it in the chat. Nandini's added on. Anybody else who wants to attend, please feel free to attend the demo session on the 9th of September. Vinny says, I did CIPD and having student support is so important as I didn't get as much as I need. I know, Vinny, that is one of the biggest success factors in terms of how well you do in the program. Um, what did you study? Was it level 3 or level 5, Vinny? And how did you enjoy it? What did you like? What did you not? Mukesh says, there are a couple of queries which I prefer to discuss in person. Thank you so much. You're most welcome. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Oh, brilliant, Vinny. Congratulations. Have you completed it? You're most welcome. Colleagues, this does bring our session to the end. Pini says yes and survived. Well, congratulations. It is a lot of hard work and full marks to you for surviving and thriving. Christina says, does the career break affect the talent pool? Sadly, in UAE, yes. If you have a break in your career history, it does seem to have an impact on how you do it. However, there is a huge talent pool of people who are looking to return back into work. So from an employer's perspective, if you're flexible about who you get on, there's a huge number of people who are looking to change careers at the same time, who have been away for various reasons like maternity leave and want to get back into the job place. So yeah, exactly. It is one of the big problems over here in it is if you're the applicant, it is very tough. Um, but again, if your track record was strong and if you do have very good examples and experience from the past, it sometimes becomes easier to manage and handle that. But it does have an effect, unfortunately. I'm glad you all enjoyed it. All the best. I am on LinkedIn as well. So if you have any further questions, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. At the same time, Nalini has already shared her details as well. So if you want to know more about the CIPD program or professional development of other type, please get in touch with her as well. Wishing each and every one of you lots and lots of personal and professional success. Continue learning and all the very best to all of you. Take care. Thank you, Khaja. I'm glad you enjoyed being a part of this. Hope to see you on more of these. We will be doing a lots more, so keep an eye out on the Kaplan pages. A lot of other HR related topics will be coming up. It's a part of the CIPD program, but it's also a part of professional development for those who are interested in the field. So hope to see you on the soon, on the future ones.